So let me just preface the conversation with some opening thoughts. When we decided to produce this event, we wanted to focus on where the industry's headed. There's been a lot of conversations, obviously, about where the industry's been and the impact of COVID on the industry this year. So let's just talk a little bit about where we are now and a little bit about where we can focus on the future. Obviously, companies are facing unprecedented times. They've got issues that they're dealing with that they never dreamed they'd have to deal with around worker safety, having enough healthy and accessible labor, supply chain issues, and the like that were caused by the pandemic. Companies have had to adapt to a rapidly changing retail landscape, learn to interact with their customers very differently. We have many clients that are having their best year ever, and we have many clients that are struggling mightily due to the pandemic. So there's been a lot of winners and unfortunately some people that are struggling. All are desperately hoping to get to that post-COVID period. How do we get to the post-COVID period, and when will it come? And what elements of what we just went through and what we're going through will be part of the new normal? And what does the new normal mean? I mean, these are things that we're going to get into in our discussion later, what that might look like, because most are telling us they don't think post-COVID is going to look anything like pre-COVID because of all the things that have happened in the past 6 or 7 months. How will the results from your COVID period impact the future of your business in terms of financing, in terms of lender relationships, investor relationships, potential acquirers? I think the COVID period might become a new part of the nomenclature when it comes to financial reporting. You may have to talk about your COVID period as well as fiscal years and their results. And what are some major impacts from the uncertainties? You know, one thing I wanted to touch on was the transaction climate. We're still seeing quite an appetite for transactions. A lot of investors are very actively looking for new places to deploy their capital. Obviously, with interest rates near zero and the Fed saying they're going to stay near zero for several years, people are looking for alternatives to get a return on their capital. And you know, what is the risk associated with those investments in light of COVID? We think there's going to be a huge focus on due diligence and quote unquote quality of earnings going forward to look at how companies are performing and what the impact of the pandemic has been on their business and how to normalize that and risk adjust for that. We also have seen a dramatic shift in the paradigm for CPG this year. I think it was happening anyway, but COVID has just accelerated it. We're now looking at companies that are generating positive cash flow for the first time. We're looking at companies that are seeking a self-sustaining business model and not just looking to grow top line for the sake of growing top line. And I think that's been a change that's been ongoing for many years. We've been working with our clients to focus on how to generate positive cash flow and what to do with that cash flow. Very important. Reassess all your spending and the value that you receive from your spending. Give your investors and your stakeholders a stronger business to be behind, a stronger business to invest in. And of course, being a cash flow positive business opens you up to a whole new world of potential acquirers in the future. So those are all things that are conversations that we're having every day. And constantly reassessing and reacting to changes in the market. You can't rest on your laurels. You can't rest on your projections, as you've all learned in the last 6 months. I mean, it used to be projections were good for at least maybe a couple of days after you finished them, but now they're obsolete in a matter of hours. So communication became key. I think, you know, our clients have told us they've had better, more meaningful dialogue with all stakeholders, their employees, their customers, their suppliers, their investors than ever before. And leverage that. Don't lose sight of that. And even if when we get to the post-COVID world, you know, use those enhanced relationships that you've built through this pandemic to help your business in the future, and continue to reassess everything. The assumptions you've had in the past that led you to today must still be re-examined based on the current and future climate. Know your numbers, know your business, and be adaptable. Those are really the key takeaways.